you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you the update for Wolfhunter for Hircine's hammer. Now previously this actually worked very well as a werewolf, but as some of you may know, werewolf has been adapted or changed in the current DLC. It's live on PC at the moment, it's due on console in about a week and a half, so 28th of August is due, but it is live on PC now, so those of you that are already on there can get stuck into this, and failing that, if you're not and you're on console, well then you can obviously prepare for it. But basically, instead of the usual build video where I go over all of the humanoid type skills for your class and all that kind of stuff, we're just going to focus on werewolf, because let's face it, this can actually go on any class. If you put it on a DK, of course you can get resources back from going werewolf. If you put it on a sorcerer, you can of course get the passives for implosion and stuff like that. Put it on a nightblade, you can get ulti quicker. We could be here all day. This will work on any class, but for me this is actually a nightblade. So if you've got the previous setup and you're using the same skills and everything as before, I'll put the link in the description for the original video. That still works absolutely fine, but we're going to focus solely on being a werewolf. So this is going to be a very short build video talking about gear and how you apply your damage. Now, we're going to go over the stats first of all, as we are in non-werewolf form, based on the sets and stuff that we're using. So I'll pop a potion real quick, put on major brutality, and our nice little buffs and such. Now, we are sitting on 25k health, 35k stamina almost, 1.8k recovery almost there as well, 40% crit with 3.3k weapon damage, not including the glyph that we're using. We are... where's the resists? Use a resist buff for any class, 21k and 22k resists, and 3k impen. We're using all points into stamina, and of course we are a werewolf. Using max health, max stamina food, because we don't need too much more recovery on top of what we've already got, because we are using the Serpent Munda Stone, so you don't need to change your food into Dubious Command Throne, although you can if you prefer to. But we're using that for the flat recovery, which is why our recovery is so high. Really nice indeed, so you can spam out a few more fears and roars and all that good stuff. Now, we're going to change into werewolf and see how this actually gets altered. Make sure we've got our buffs on. We are now sitting on just short of 40k, actually, 40% actually. We're sitting on 36% crit with almost 4k weapon damage and 44k stamina with 24k health. That is insane. It resists our 25, almost 26 and 27, and we've still got the same impen. Now we have a lot of stamina, so we can hit very hard. Light attacks got buffed to hell because of max resources, so instead of scaling off of weapon damage so much, they now actually scale off of max resources as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into my house and I'm just going to basically show you how this works, alongside explaining all the gear and why it works the way it does. Now, I'm going to go over the werewolf skills first of all. I'm going to do this on the PTS, obviously, because it's there. We don't have it on console yet, so I'm going to show you that briefly, explain where everything goes, then I'm going to get into the gear, and it's going to start making a lot more sense. So we'll do a little bit of some on PTS, some on live. So, here we go. Okay, so the werewolf skill line was actually altered quite a bit in Wolfhunter, for the better, I might add. It's not actually a bad thing, so don't worry about people crying about nerfs on the forum, because it's not. It's really good. Now, of course, we are a wolf berserker. We're a werewolf berserker. The reason we've chosen this morph, the other one actually has 2 pets with it, but it hits a little bit less. The bleed isn't so strong, but this particular morph is really powerful. While slotted, of course, you gain a 15% to recovery, so if you are not in werewolf form yet, of course, you get the recovery, but then when you are a werewolf, you still keep it anyway, so it's really nice. But above all, when you light attack something, you apply an 8-second bleed on the target. Now, the heavy attacks deal 50% splash damage as well, which means if you do heavy attack something, nearby targets will get hit, and your max stamina is increased by 30%, which is why we've got way over 40k. It's really nice. So as long as we're light attacking like hell, this bleed will constantly be applied, and it will hit really hard. Remember, bleeds go through resistances, and as long as they're already attached to the target, they'll go under the shields as well. It's really nasty. Now, Brutal Pounce. I've chosen this morph. The original was just Pounce. One morph of this actually gives you a 1 second uptime extra on werewolf every time you pounce from a certain range, but this particular one actually has splash damage as well, so if you hit one target, it'll splash the remaining targets around it, close by, so it's really nice. This is your main gap closer. Anywhere between 5 to 22 meters, you can literally jump across the sky and land on their face. It's really fun. Hircine's Rage. This is very important. Not only is it a really powerful heal and expensive, but it is also a buff. Now, this particular heal is very, very powerful indeed. It used to base off of max magicka. Now it bases off of max health. So the higher your health, the bigger the heal when you actually fire it, because it's based off a percentage. This is actually 47% of your max health. It is reduced in PvP, of course, because all heals are. But if you've got heal and receive bonuses and all that kind of stuff, they also do stack on top of this. Also, this is a buff. So make sure that when you go into Werewolf, you activate this right away and give yourself that major brutality for 20 seconds. Just reapply it once every 20 seconds or use it when you need to, but watch your sustain because it's expensive. It's very, very strong. You get massive heals from it. Definitely Raw, this ability actually fears 6 enemies, which is insane. If you are a massive army of werewolves and you jump into a massive Zerg and you all hit this, you're fearing 6 enemies apiece. It is disgusting. They get feared for 3.5 seconds, running in a random direction, and every person that is feared will be major fractured as well, making their physical resistance go down by 5280 for 10 seconds, which means you hit harder. This is incredible at separating a crowd and just smashing people to bits. Make sure you use this at the right time, and make sure, of course, that the targets you try to fear don't have that white swirly particle effect around their feet, because that means they're CC immune and they won't be able to be feared. So use this when you can, but be careful, it is expensive. Now, Howl of Despair is a single target hit. It's physical damage, it's raw, it's really, really nasty. This particular morph is from Howl, which is basically the same ability, but this one applies a Feeding Frenzy synergy. So enemies nearby can take this synergy, and if they do, for 5 seconds, their light attack damage is increased by 40%. So if you're with other werewolves and you howl, or they're howling and you take their synergy, your light attack damage, although very high already, just went up. It's really, really handy. Use this when you're in a really kind of clustered situation and a lot of other werewolves are close by. It's really nice. Claws of Anguish, this is actually a damage over time in a conal effect in front of 7 meters in front of you, and this will actually do damage over time, disease damage I might add, which adds, of course, minor defile if you're lucky, and also at the same time this actually inflicts them with major defile for 4 seconds, reducing their health recovery and even received by 30%. So remember, this has major defile attached to it, but because it's disease damage and a damage over time, it could actually proc the minor defile as well. It's really, really nasty. So once you get into a big Zerg of people, splash this claw effect, like it's a big swipe effect with a claw, in front of you, get everyone defiled, and then smack the crap out of them. Remember, in PvP, if they can't heal, they're dead. If you don't defile them, some people can heal very, very well. Really, really stupid high heals from some people. I've seen even stamina DPS go from 0 to full just with one rally because of the way that they're set up. Make sure you defile your target at all times. In the meantime, of course, based on the way the build is set up, you need to light attack your ass off. So keep your buff up, get your debuffs in, and then crack, 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 crack until they die. It's really nice. Devour, you are going to need this. This is a base passive anyway, but this basically allows you to feed off of enemies, which will increase your werewolf uptime. So it's really, really nice, and of course you will restore health as well. So keep an eye on the bar underneath your magical bar. It's a tiny timer, really, really small light blue bar, which will go down and down and down. If you feed, it will go back up. Remember, the bigger the group, the longer uptime on a werewolf. That is in these passives you'll see in a moment. Also, your stam return from heavy attacks is much, much more as a werewolf. So you actually increase your heavy attack restore by 100% for being werewolf. So do get those heavy attacks in. They do splash damage as well, so it's handy. Increase your movement speed by 30%. We're really fast. Watch your sustain. Most people run out of stamina because they're sprinting too much. When you deal damage, the duration of a werewolf transformation, this is huge, is increased by 4 seconds. This effect can happen once every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds you actually lose 1 second of werewolf as long as you're doing damage. Previously, it used to be when you take damage, which didn't make a lot of sense because it was more tanky based, which was weird because you can't be a tank because there's no taunt. But now it's pushed for more aggression. So werewolves now benefit from doing damage. So get stuck in and keep hitting stuff. Blood Moon, this one's up to you. You can bite other people once every 7 days if you have this passive. Help your friends out, give them werewolf as well. Also, increases your weapon damage by 18% for being werewolf, which is massive on top of our medium armor passives, which I'll get to in a moment. And also increases your spell and physical resistance by 10k, which is massive. Absolutely enormous. We are tanky as hell and we hit like a steam train. Reduces the cost of remaining in your werewolf transformation by 20% for each werewolf in your group, including yourself, up to a maximum of 80%. Now, if you consider once every 5 seconds, you can gain back 4 seconds. We only lose 1 second of werewolf time over 5 seconds. 80% reduction in that is absolutely insane. If you've got more than 4 people in your group, or 4 or more basically, you can have werewolf uptime 100% of the time so long as you're doing damage. It's really, really strong. So I highly encourage people that if they're going to go werewolf, go with more werewolves. It's really, really, really strong. Before, this was a thing, but it was tricky maintaining it in PvE because you couldn't really keep the uptime generally anyway, because you had to take damage rather than deal it. Now, for getting stuck in, you're rewarded. Really, really nice. Okay, so important passives that we're going to go over. Of course, weapons don't really make that much of a difference for us at the moment because we are using sword and board. That's very important. You need to get the passives for those because obviously they help with your sustain and your ability to block damage. So do get all of those. But your back bar weapon, I'm using a two-hander, so I'll get all the passives. They help for sustain, splash damage if you're using lights and heavies and all that kind of stuff. But you might be using something different. The actual build of the character is not that important. It's more about the actual gear and what you do during Werewolf. But if you are choosing any other weapons, it's entirely up to you, but make sure you get their passives, of course. That's very important. Class passives, again, that depends on your class. As a Nightblade, I get all of them, of course, but anything else that you want to use instead, whether it be a Sork or a DK or whatever, that's up to you. But the ones you do need for the build, the ones that are important, are armor passives. We're not using any light, but if you are, get the top 3 passives. They'll help towards your recovery. If you're not, ignore them. Medium, we are using medium armor, so we want to make sure we get that weapon crit bonus, the stam recovery bonus, and reduction to cost, because we are going to be spamming abilities and light attacks combined. Sneak reduction to cost, and of course sneak detection. That's important while you're not werewolf. So that's very, very relevant to get that. You're going to be sneaking around, you're going to make sure that you don't get jumped all the time. That is important. Weapon damage increase, of course, we're using 5 pieces of medium armor, so we benefit from this bonus, which stacks with our other bonuses to our sets, our major brutality, and of course the werewolf bonus as well for having extra weapon damage. Also, this increases your movement speed while sprinting and reduces the cost of dodge roll. You can still dodge roll in a werewolf, and the one major problem with people being a werewolf as to why they can't sustain is because they spend 90% of their time sprinting. Be careful. We do have a reduction to cost, but make sure that you've got enough stamina to be able to break free, dodge roll, and use a couple of abilities. Don't burn it out, although it is really, really fun. Heavy armor, we're using 2 pieces of heavy, so get this for the extra physical resistance, get this for the extra return when you do get hit, and get this for the increased health. This one's important for sneak reduction if you do a lot of thieving, but if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world, especially if you're werewolf pretty much all the time, especially in a really big werewolf group. Werewolf, of course, we've gone over. Fighters Guild, make sure you do get this while you're building up werewolf. You want to get ultimate, so if you kill undead, Daedra, or werewolf, that's very important. Undaunted is essential, of course. We can take synergies now as a werewolf, which is essential. If you see a synergy, take it. You'll get 4% of all 3 resources back. Very, very strong indeed. And of course, Undaunted Metal. If you have several different types of armor worn, heavy, medium, or light, for each type, you'll get 2% of your max resources back. We're using 2 heavy and 5 medium. So, because we're using 2 different types, we get 2 bonuses of 2%, amounting to 4% across the board. Assault and support, you will want to get every single one of these passives. They contribute towards your damage for taking resources, your range as well, and of course your res speed. So make sure you do get these if you've maxed them out. This particular character hasn't, but if you have got the skill points to do so and you're assault level 10, get every single one of them. They're going to help you a lot. We are, of course, a wood elf. Now, my Nightblade is specifically a wood elf for the recovery and the sneak bonuses and all that good stuff, but as a werewolf, it's also very, very nice because we do have a 21% increase to recovery, which is the highest recovery bonus for any race in the game. It's absolutely insane. We also have 2 very valid passives into one here. One is a 6% bonus to max stamina. The other is our poison and disease resistance is actually up in comparison with other races. Also, we gain immunity to poison and disease status effects, which means if someone hits us with poison damage that could apply a status effect, we cannot get hit with that 6-second damage over time, which comes from a poison status effect. And disease status effects gives us minor defile, which reduces our healing and our healing received and our health recovery. We cannot be hit with those if they're from a status effect. We are immune to them. That's handy. This one here as well reduces the detection radius by 3 meters and increases your damage done while in stealth. That is relevant while you're not a werewolf, but while you are a werewolf, doesn't really matter. But these 2 are really, really nice. Alchemy, of course, my favorite passive. Make sure you get this as soon as possible. There is a link in the description for a alchemy guide showing you how to get to max level alchemy in about 15 minutes flat, as long as you've got the right materials, which is really, really cheap as well. And you need to basically fill it up to 8, unlock this, dump your skill points, and then just buy this passive back again on its own. Any potions you use, any bonuses they give you, regardless of what they are, will be increased in terms of their duration by 30%. So it's very, very strong indeed, especially if you're using immovability pots, because it means your immovable lasts longer. So now I'm going to go into the champion points real quick. You can change these as much as you like, but this is where I'm comfortable. 66 into Ironclad to make sure that you reduce the incoming direct damage. There's going to be shit tons of that in PvP, especially from Magicka-based guys. It's going to really, really hurt. So make sure you stack up on some of that. Also 38 points into Resistance. You'll notice we're over 3k in Pen. This actually does contribute to 1k of it. It's really, really handy. 37 points into Hardy, so we reduce physical, poison, and disease damage. Also, Frost, Shock, Magic, Flame, all that stuff is also reduced by 9%. And Thick Skin, above all, is actually higher than these. Reason being is most stuff that we don't want to get hit by is damage over time. Direct damage does play a big factor in PvP, but the damage over time stuff, especially poison and stuff like that as a werewolf, you want to make sure that you do have thick skin kind of topped up a bit. And of course, Unchained is really important because we've now unlocked that for having 120 points in this tree, meaning that if we break free, our next stamina ability costs 80% less. That's very important, especially with the gear that we're using, because our stuff goes up in price. And of course, you want to make sure you can maintain your stamina because you're using it for everything: blocks, dodge rolls, sprints, hits, the lot. 15 points into Quick Recovery to increase our healing received, including the healing that we do ourselves, and 19 points into Expert Defender, meaning those light and heavy attacks that we're going to be receiving, especially the direct ones as well. If they are direct, this will actually stack with it, so you've got direct damage reduction, and you've got light and heavy attack reduction as well. Also, don't forget, we've got 30 points into this tree, so we can get this first passive for 10 points, which means if we resurrect people, we actually take less damage, so we're tanky while we're resin, and we res fast in PvP. Also, if you resurrect another person, they will get Magicka Recovery for 8 seconds for you doing so. It's really, really handy. A couple of passives there you should pay attention to. You get them by default anyway, but know what they do. They're really handy. 44 points into Warlord. We are going to need to break free, reduce the cost. 75 points into Tenacity. We do have a massive bonus for stam return for being a werewolf in the first place. This will stack with that. It's really nice. Recovery. We have high recovery as a werewolf, and especially based on the setup that we're using, so this will contribute to that as well. 48 points into Tumbling. You will need to dodge roll, so make sure that you reduce the cost for that. And of course, some points into Shadow Ward. I am using Sword and Board to make sure I can benefit from an extra in-pen piece, so I am going to want to make sure that when I do block, the cost is down. And as a werewolf, you're going to block anyway, so why not? 19 points into Bless, increasing your healing done. You are going to heal. 19 points into Physical Weapons Expert, so your light attacks are stronger. Master at Arms, 56 points to this. This will include your raw and your light attacks and your heavy attacks. So these actually work really nice together. That also gives us 75 points in the tree before I get to Shattering Blows, meaning we get the Butcher passive, which increases our light and heavy attack damage while the targets have low health. And of course, we want to take their shields off so that they put them back on again. So if we increase the damage we do to shields, they panic, they put them back on, we do Oblivion damage, they die. Really, really nice. So this helps kind of push those shields off. 56 points into Thaumaturge. We're using some disease damage over time. We're using bleeds. We're using a few dots in there. We want to make sure that we boost that because the bleed is really, really nasty, especially if it gets underneath someone's shield, if you like, or under their skin. Piercing to make sure that when we do get through their shield, we actually go through their resistance is quite nice. And of course, we're using nothing but disease and physical attacks, so we want to make sure we boost that as much as we can without going into too many diminished returns. Now into the gear. Now, just to make sense of all those skills, obviously there's not too much to worry about. There's your heal, there's your little buff, there's your fear, there's your knockdown. It's all pretty standard stuff, and above all, you got to light attack your ass off because it does so much damage. Now, these sets are made up in a combination that are specifically supporting that type of damage, and this will kill shield stackers. So all those sorks that stack in 2 or 3 shields at a time, good luck. This is made to take care of those types of builds. Now, first of all, we are using Kvatch Gladiator. We're using a sword and board on purpose. First of all, we want to make sure that we can defend while we're not in werewolf form. Skills aside, like I said, class doesn't matter. But we want to make sure we can protect ourselves. In the meantime, of course, because we're using a shield, we can take advantage of an extra impenetrable item. If you had dual wield or a two-hander or anything on this particular bar, you wouldn't get this extra 249 crit resistance. So this is really, really handy. But what this set does is this will give you weapon crit again, so you can crit quite a lot. You have weapon damage, which is going to contribute towards our damage, of course. And when your target is under 25% health, you add 1,800 weapon damage to your light and heavy attacks. That's very specific. We are going to spam light and heavy attacks. On the back bar, I've chosen to have a two-hander just because I like to play two-hander in PvP, but you don't have to. You can have anything you like here because weapons don't make a single bit of difference when you're in werewolf form. They take them away, it doesn't matter. If you have a two-hander or a sword and board, the weapon damage you get from the werewolf is your flat amount plus your gain, not anything else, so don't worry about that. But for the out of werewolf phase, this is kind of up to you, but make sure, of course, that you've got 5 Kvatch Gladiator on both bars. Monster set is disgusting. This is Kina. Now, if you're not familiar with this, this comes from White Gold Tower, and the monster set comes from the last boss, but the shoulder comes from the Undaunted chests. That will also be on the website, by the way. The links are in the description for this video as well. Now, this will give you weapon and spell damage flat out. So that's a base bonus that you get straight away. And then, if you deal 2 consecutive light attacks, which is very easy to do as a werewolf, for 6 seconds you will increase your weapon and spell damage by 498. Your abilities cost more, but you hit much, much harder. So, bear in mind we're going to be light attack spamming like hell. This can stay up almost 100% of the time, no problem whatsoever. So we have a massive boost to weapon damage. At the same time as if their health is low, we have another increase to weapon damage. So just hit, 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 and you will get stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, remember, medium armor, you get a bonus to weapon damage and recovery and all that good stuff. We are using 5 pieces of medium on purpose. 5 medium, 2 heavy, in fact. You can go 5 medium, 1 heavy, 1 light if you prefer. But I actually like the extra little resistance because we're a bit squishy. But the 5 medium piece is the shield breaker, which is here. Now, you can have some on the jewelry, some on the body. It doesn't matter. The same goes for Kvatch. It's a crafted set, so you can manipulate this as much as you want. But have 5 medium on the body. We're using the shield breaker. And what this does is this will give you a stamina bonus, which means we have more damage. It gives us recovery, so we can obviously recover more. We have weapon damage again. We've got loads and loads of weapon damage. And when you deal damage with a light or heavy attack, remember we're spamming lights, against a player with a damage shield, you will deal an additional 2490 oblivion damage to them. That cannot be blocked, mitigated, or whatever. That will hit them, and there's nothing they can do about it. So if they have a damage shield on, you will hurt them. No matter what. Now, if you consider that we're going to be light attack spamming like hell, this is going to hit them really, really hard. This is going to hit them really, really hard. And we're going to knock their shield off quicker. Meaning, if they panic, oh my god, my shield's off, quick, put another shield on, this will kill them. This will hit them really, really hard. And all you have to do, while in Werewolf, is this. Kina's on straight away, and you are hitting them. Keep your buffs up, put some dots in, fear them if you have to, but all you have to do is keep light attacking. And if you do so, you will actually constantly have a huge weapon damage bonus. 5240 weapon damage with your proc from your glyph. Didn't go over that in the gear, but we shall. Your glyph, by the way, on both bars have actually got increased weapon and spell damage. So we have increased weapon and spell damage here, increased weapon damage to low targets, increased weapon damage here, and we go straight through their shields and hit them for raw damage no matter what. So it's really, really powerful. Take a pocket healer with you if you want. I would recommend it, in fact. Definitely go in a group. But this, if you start light attacking someone with a shield, even a tank with a damage shield, you are going to devastate it in seconds. It really, really hurts. The lower their health, the more damage you do. The more shields they put on, the more damage you do. It all stacks together really, really nicely. Now, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration versus someone who's trying to stay alive with damage shields. I'm going to make them spam shields like hell, and I'm going to smack into them. Here we go. Okay, so we're called Stiggin here. He's a beefy tank, so he's going to have lots and lots of health in PvP, and basically he's been told to keep his shields up as much as possible. So we'll see what happens. If he decides to start the bloody duel. Come on. Thank you. And as you can see, his health is pissing out with shields applied. He can still heal from underneath it, but it won't be enough. All I've got to do is light attack continuously. He can heal, but it's not enough. Then eat him. Now, that's just one of us. If there was more than one werewolf, that's a mess. That's a tanky player down really, really fast. Now, if it's a Sork and it's stacking a couple of shields, they're going to die really, really fast. Take into account he had 50k plus on his health bar. He's shielding, trying to survive, and there's not a chance in hell. Again, remember, the more damage shields they've got, the more damage you do to them. The bleeds will affect them as well, which go under the shields if you catch them while the shield is off, because you are knocking the shields off, making them panic to put it back on again. So once the shield's down, you bleed them, the shield go back on, you hit them through the freaking shield. It's nuts. And when they go really low health, knock them down, give them a couple of light attack slaps, your Kvatch Gladiator will kick in and finish them off. It's really, really, really nasty. So, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Remember the key points. Fear your target if you have to. Keep your heal up because, of course, it's very, very strong now. And it gives you a buff as well, just for keeping it active. Keep an eye on your timers. While you're a werewolf, light attack your ass off. Gap closer as much as possible to get in there with your mates and jump on their heads really, really fast. If you light attack, you'll proc Kina. If you light attack someone who is shielded, you will proc Shield Breaker and go through their health anyway. If their shield falls off and you light attack them, you'll attack them with a bleed, which will stay on them even if they put a shield on. And if they go to 25% health or lower, knock them down and light attack the crap out of them. You will hit them really hard with Kvatch Gladiator. It's very, very strong. However, one more key point. Don't solo with it if you can help it. Take a healer or go with a few werewolves. They're meant to be in a pack anyway. This is squishy, but it hits like a truck. Anyway, once again, thank you all very, very much for watching. I fully appreciate the support, and if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website XynodeGaming.com, and my Twitch account, because I'm live streaming on Twitch now every single night from 10 PM onwards. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.